The schedule's starting to get put into place for Duke basketball, and this team, lofty expectations, but I think they're going to be able to accomplish a whole lot. Let's get going. It's Locked On Blue Devils.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. It's so great to have you here with us today on this Tuesday, July 28th, 2026. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on inside the life of Duke athletics. And on today's show, I'm really excited. My buddy Ben McCormick from Duke Wisdom is going to be here. We got to talk about these outrageously lofty expectations once again for Duke going into the season. The hype is at an all-time high. The schedule is going to be incredibly tough for Duke in the non-conference. So many things that we will be able to discuss throughout the course of today's show. As we bring my pal Ben McCormick on into the program, it is great to see you once again. Hard to believe it, dude. We are in the last week of July, and here we are starting to get some footage out for Duke basketball, man.
Yeah, man, they're looking good. I'm excited. I mean, this is like the deepest team I've seen at Duke. This is like 2015 Kentucky type vibes, except that they're going to finish the job. They're not gonna come up short. But I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, it's almost like obviously this time of year. I mentioned, dude, it's the last week of July. Football season will be here before we know it. We're going to be looking forward to seeing what exactly this basketball team's able to look like. And so we're desperate to see content and to see these guys meshing and gelling together. And we're seeing pictures of them at, a pool party and cookouts and all the things. But the more we get, the more these expectations are only going to be continuing to grow, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're at the point of the basketball offseason where people really are talking about, they're like, they're getting along together. They're becoming friends. Like that's the stuff we're talking about. It's like, and what that is important. I mean, and I think they are, obviously. It's funny because like there's so many like weird spells in the offseason, but this team, man, there's so much to look forward to. They're like, I'm fine with picking things in the offseason because, like, I really believe in this team, which is weird because we haven't seen them play.
Yeah, no, but I think it's a team that's obviously got size. That's been a staple for Jon Scheyer over the last few seasons. And then just the blend of youth and then the experience that you're getting. You bringing in a transfer star like John Blackwell, veteran leaders like Caleb Foster and Patrick Gongba. We're calling Dame Sarr a leader at this point as just a young sophomore, and then these freshmen and how good they're set to be for Duke this season.
We'll talk about that size, man. I mean, on Go Duke, they got the heights up now. I'm not buying some of these heights. I don't think JoJo's 7'2", man.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, but I like the optimism on his height. But it's crazy that when you look at how big this team really is, you've got like six dudes maybe that are like 6'10" plus. Like if you go down the whole of the roster, I mean, you got Max Mayer, if he's that tall, Pat, Drew, Jojo, Cam. I mean, it's crazy, honestly. It's nuts. Like there are lineup combinations that Duke could go with where they could put Cameron Williams at the 3 and Dame Sarr at the 2. You could be running a 6'9" guy at shooting guard in college. And that's absurd. I mean, that should make every other team in the country just quiver to think about that kind of positional size they have. That's like NBA level positional size.
And Duke's got that to their advantage this season. I mean, you're right. The sizes are certainly eye-opening. And this is also, in fact, when Duke has guards under 6'5", right? Because Deron Rippey Jr., John Blackwell, those are guys that, aren't fitting the typical mold that we've seen over the last few seasons. When you think about a Foster and a Caden Boozer and a Tyrese Proctor and just these like really tall guards that Jon Scheyer has blended. So you've got a ton of size in the front court and still at the guard position, but we're finally getting to see some of those smaller guards be able to add into the mix as well.
We've got a lot more leeway now. Like I remember the roster in 2024 where you had Jared and Tyrese and Jeremy Roach. And when you put like Jeremy out there with Jared, you got a little worried sometimes defensively, right? But like this team, it doesn't feel like you're going to have that worry. You put out one guy that's under 6'5", even if you put both of them out, whatever. You've got such a big front court. You've got so many lineup combinations that can make up for it, even if you do give up a little bit defensively. And that's saying if you even are, because like Rippy's going to be a dog defensively.
Yeah, no, he is. Absolutely. And this is now from GoDuke.com, the Duke Athletics website, as you've alluded to just a moment ago there, Ben. What's interesting here is with Jojo, you could see it, like you said, 7'2", 250. Duke, we got to get this headshot going. We got to get him in the jersey so that there could be photos for him. And it's not just Jojo. The other freshmen haven't quite been updated on the roster page either. But yeah, 7'2", 250. I don't know, man. That is a monster. And I'm not quite sure that that's how big he is.
I'm buying 250. I need to see him next to Cameron Williams. I got to see him. I don't think he's taller than Cameron. And if he is, it's not 2 inches,
The other thing I want to point out as we're looking at the updated kind of roster pages for Duke, you can see it there with Joaquin Boumtje Boumtje, Jojo. What's epic is, high school FC Barcelona, quite the flex that he's been able to have throughout his career. But then I look at somebody like Caleb Foster, Ben, and now we're updating things to where he's no longer a senior. He's year 4. Yeah. And the NCAA 5 for 5. Great. I figured maybe we would be able to keep, freshman, junior, sophomore, senior, and then thinking about a grad student or even 5th year at that point. But no, straight up, Caleb Foster, year 4.
Yeah, it seems like we're almost going to transition to a completely different way of like naming that. Like maybe we're not even going to call players freshmen or sophomores. At some point, it's just going to be, oh, you're in year 1, you're in year 2. That's crazy, but I mean, it might happen. Honestly.
That's kind of what it looks like we're going.
Yeah, they're kind of pioneering it. It's a little odd to see it that way, but I mean, it makes sense. Seeing as Caleb and John Blackwell now have an additional year of eligibility if they want.
Yeah, don't hate that. Obviously, it could be to Duke's advantage going into the next season, but makes recruiting difficult, figuring out where all these guys are going to slot in and who comes back for another year, if that's the case. 6'5", 200, the updated height and weight for one Mr. Caleb Foster. And yet we've got big expectations for him, and that's a big guard that Duke's going to be putting out there on the floor, right?
Yeah, man, Caleb has always had great size. He looks incredibly motivated. I mean, I think when you look at this roster, there's an obvious captain. There's an obvious Quinn Cook style player here, and it's Caleb. He's the guy that I think all the fans are like, if we're winning for somebody this year, it's got to be for this guy, man. He's been through it. He is a lifelong Duke fan, and he looks good in the tape that they put out. He looks confident. Yeah, and he looks like a really capable leader.
Yeah, shout out to you, Caleb Foster. We're all behind you, and I cannot wait to see what this team's able to do following his leadership and that sort of thing. This team, though, is going to be really tested with the schedule that they're starting to put together. That's only going to make things a bit more difficult on the journey to a national championship. Let's talk about some of the latest schedule updates and a few other things, and we'll get into that here when Locked On Blue Devils continues. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at The Game. Since 1986, The Game has been creating classic college hats that fans are proud to wear. Whether you're an alumnus, current student, season ticket holder, or simply someone who never misses a game, a great college hat is more than just apparel. It's a way to represent your school wherever you go. This year, The Game is celebrating its 40th anniversary by giving fans a chance to save on some of their most iconic college hats. If you've ever been thinking about replacing an old favorite or adding a new one to your collection, now is the perfect time. Let me show off this Duke hat that The Game sent me. All this sleek black look. You're available to get it over at The Game. Grab one of these, Duke fans. It's such a cool, classic look that you want to be rocking in the day-to-day. With hundreds of officially licensed college hats to choose from, you'll find the perfect fit for game day and every day. Don't miss this chance to celebrate 40 years of The Game with 40% off your entire order. Visit thegamecaps.com and use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's thegamecaps.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Celebrate 40 years of The Game with 40% off. But don't wait. This anniversary offer won't last forever. The Game Caps, proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, JJ Jackson hanging out with Ben McCormick of Duke Wisdom, and we're talking about this Duke basketball schedule. Whew, it's loaded with non-conference games, and that's amidst the chaos of figuring out who's the third partner for Duke in this Amazon Prime Video series in a game at Madison Square Garden. Are they going to play it at Lone Depot Park, where the Marlins are, where head coach Dusty May at the time for Michigan had connections to Miami? No, all of that has now been shifted and rearranged. The game is back on inside Madison Square Garden on December 21st, and it's a rematch against Texas Tech. Ben, it is a year and a day. December 20th, 2025, Texas Tech overcame a 17-point deficit to knock off Duke, and now 1 year, 1 day later, December 21st, 2026, we will see Texas Tech and Duke from the very same venue.
Yeah, Duke continues to play Texas Tech in that little window. They've had a few opportunities to play them. They're 2019. They played them, I think, maybe on December 19th. So very similar date frame. But I think they've got a really good opportunity. If you want to say get revenge, the roster looks so different for Texas Tech next year. So it's the same team, but it's not really. This is a good transition, I think, for the schedule. Texas Tech is a really good program. They're not as strong as a team as Michigan probably will be next season. Michigan projects to be a top 5 team, or at least top 10 even without Dusty May as their head coach. But Texas Tech's still solid. They might not be a top 25 team preseason, but that's a good test. That's a good addition to the schedule, I think, regardless. And, yeah, like you said, they're going to be able to get their get back,
which is obviously what's going to feel good for Duke fans, probably more so than even some of the players, right? Because, the players so often are just there for a year or two before all the turnover takes place. And what a game that was. Christian Anderson made big-time shots down the stretch for Texas Tech, and now he's going to be playing in the NBA for our in-state Charlotte Hornets. And you'll be able to see Duke go up against a Christian Anderson-less Texas Tech squad. But that's one of just a few. Let's talk about that Prime Video series itself, where Duke also finds matchups against UConn and Gonzaga. No shortage of headlines there.
Those are really cool ones. I've been wanting UConn for years, man. I mean, as soon as they came back to championship contention, Dan Hurley and everything, you want UConn. And then given the way last year ends, I think you want that matchup just a little bit more. Plus, there's a guy in the starting lineup over at UConn that you want to stab at as well. There's a lot going on in that game, and I don't want to shortchange the Gonzaga game. That's a fantastic schedule, obviously. Fantastic program. Mark Few always has that team as a top 20 in the country. But that UConn game, I think everybody's got that one circled. Everybody wants to see that. I think this is such a fantastic move by Duke's athletic department, by the basketball program, to schedule this series of 3 games, because it adds to their strength of schedule, by so much. This puts them in a position to be a 1 seed, even if they drop a couple of non-conference games. It should be fun.
Yeah, I think about that Gonzaga game in particular, because you touched on so much of the UConn of it all. And Nick Kamenia, he's all over UConn's clips that they're putting out there over the summer. Like it's sitting in for a lot of Duke people that yep, that's where he went. He's going to play for UConn this year. But Gonzaga, to play that game in Detroit, where the Final Four will be played, granted, not the same venue. In February, we can't quite get Ford Field to set up for a standalone college basketball game between Duke and Gonzaga. But heady planning by Duke once again to kind of head to the ultimate spot, the Final Four city. And I'm sure that had to be to the appeal of Mark Few and that Gonzaga basketball program too.
I mean, they continue to just take that non-conference schedule up a step and a step and a step every single season. I think one of the biggest criticisms under Coach K was everybody said Duke has a cupcake schedule. They don't play tough games in non-conference. The only ones they ever played were in the Big Ten Challenge or whatever. But Jon Scheyer just continues to to go deeper and deeper in that we're going to play everybody, man. We're not scared. We're not ducking anybody. Yeah. Like John Rothstein had his way too early top 10. And back when Michigan was still on the schedule, Duke had a game against every other team in the top 5. They had I think 6 top 10 games. They had 11 or 12 top 25 games preseason.
That's nuts.
That's ridiculous. I mean, that's insane. Still, they're playing every other team probably in the preseason top 4 with UConn, with Illinois, and with Florida. It's unreal, the schedule they have put together. They have so much room for error to still be a 1 seed because of this schedule. and they are preparing themselves every single day to be a 1 seed and to be a national champion. I mean, he keeps doubling and tripling down on the fact that he'll schedule pretty much anything.
Yeah, and shout out to Jon Scheyer for doing that, because we love watching these games, and he's had a really good track record in these games for the most part as well. Like, it's really fun to get your team ready to go for the tournament. And look, Duke's made it to 3 straight Elite Eights and baked in a Final Four spot along the way as well. Hopefully they're able to get back there this upcoming season. Other significant non-conference games include a date at Florida in the ACC-SEC Challenge, a banger of a basketball game last season where Isaiah Evans hits the game-winning shot at the end, his only 3-point make of the game. And so what does Duke do? What does the ESPN do as they're kind of putting these schedules together? How about you send Duke to one of the toughest venues in the SEC, in the Florida Gators, to get a rematch there?
We had to. This is probably number 1 versus number 2, I think, on everybody's top 25, man. Florida, 2 straight 1 seeds, Duke, 2 straight 1 seeds. Probably, actually not even probably, definitely the top 2 front courts in the country. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Florida has a very seasoned veteran front court that is going to be physical, tough. They're going to rebound the ball extremely well. Duke's going to be able to do some of that as well. They have a more skill-focused front court, but that back court is, I think, going to be the separating factor. Florida might come in as the preseason number 1, but that game may decide who's in the driver's seat for the number 1 overall seed come March.
No doubt. And if you're able to add that win to your resume, like you said, that puts you over the top, and you're the team that they kind of turn to for the number 1 overall seed. Awesome stuff for Duke to get that game on the schedule. How about just a random trip out to California for Duke, planning the kind of trip to Las Vegas and where you're going to be playing UConn. But Duke's going to be taking on Washington State in a fun non-conference matchup that we're not typically used to seeing. You've got Michigan State in the Champions Classic on the schedule for the Blue Devils. I mean, it's just, like we said, we're not even getting to the mid-major or even lower than that tier. These are some high major programs that we're talking about Duke's got lined up on their schedule.
There's no wasted opportunities anymore. I mean, they used to play so many of these like gimme games, and now they're like, maybe they're so good that Washington State is a gimme game. Maybe I'll regret saying that at some point. But, like, I guess if you want to strengthen your schedule, might as well put a Power 6. I mean, if we're still calling Washington State as being part of a Power 6. But might as well put a power conference team on that schedule instead of another mid-major. And it looks better. The committee's probably going to receive it better.
Yeah, and of course we've got Gonzaga in Madison Square Garden, a part of the Jimmy V Classic. Mike White has taken that team to the NCAA tournament in back-to-back seasons for the first time since 2001, 2002. And then how could we forget Illinois, a home that Duke has set up with the Fighting Illini. They will come to Cameron Indoor Stadium, and I have to bet you're probably pretty high on this Illinois team going into the year, Ben, with all the talent they're bringing back.
Yeah, man. I mean, Final Four last season, they bring back a ton of talent from that team. This is a team that was the biggest in college basketball last season. So I talked about those front courts with Florida and Duke. Illinois might be right there at number 3 in front courts, and that's why they're projected to be as high as number 3 preseason. That's going to be an absolute banger of a game, and we're going to get, I love the fact that they could schedule that series. The idea of going to Illinois again the next season is a great one. Scheduling those home and aways are always really big. And I'm looking at this schedule, man, and I completely forgot about that Georgia game. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy how many of these Power 4 games they have scheduled.
It's going to be awesome. We're still officially waiting for the Jimmy V Classic to determine what date within December that this game is going to be played. But Georgia's going to be a really fun test for Duke to go up against. Some recent news, we now know a date for the Army game for Duke, and it's Monday, November 2nd. You cannot play a basketball game prior to November 2nd. It is the very first day of the NCAA season, and Duke will get started off taking on Army. A few days later, they take on Coastal Carolina. So a couple of mid-tier opponents for the Blue Devils before that Michigan State game. Some years it's been the Champions Classic game that gets started right away, your very first game of the season. But for Duke, it'll be Army inside Cameron Indoor Stadium, and then a contest against Coastal Carolina to get the season opened up for this bunch.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that they don't have the Champions Classic first anymore. Not that it's necessarily a bad thing, but Duke's got that streak of not losing their opener for like a long time. And every
Right.
time you have that, it puts it in jeopardy.
Too much pressure.
Yeah, but like as I'm looking at this, I love the way that it's built in terms of you're not playing like four consecutive top 10 teams at any point. Like you've got, UConn and Florida back to back's kind of nuts, but
Right.
at least it's sandwiched between Washington State and Campbell, right? Like you get a breather at some point, at least in theory, a breather. You don't want to shortchange anybody.
Yeah.
But at least you're not playing top 5 teams back to back to back to back at any point. You might be playing them all, but it's not all consecutive.
Yeah, and again, we're assuming that no games are set to be added at any point in the order here. If you're watching on YouTube with us, right, we got 3 games left to go that Duke can add to their non-conference schedule. I think it's safe to assume that Florida game being the day before Thanksgiving and before going into the final weekend of the college football regular season, that there wouldn't be a game added in there to that weekend. Duke hasn't traditionally done that on their schedule, so probably that 6-day layoff, which is great, and the travel getting from Vegas down to Gainesville. But yeah, we'll see kind of where these other non-conferences are baked in. And then what about 2 exhibition games to open up the year? That's become more of a norm in college basketball. There were some rumors a while back from the Kansas side of things that possibly an exhibition against Kansas in Lawrence at Fall Gallon Fieldhouse, and maybe that will be something that officially gets announced by Duke. But a lot of schedule news here today, Ben, but still not quite 100% there.
No, not quite done yet. I do love those exhibitions and the way they can play the high-profile ones. I remember last year it being such a big deal when they played Tennessee, and then Cameron had that ridiculous stat line where he had like 33 and 20-something.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, okay, maybe Tennessee wasn't trying or something. Like, and then the next game, first games of the season, I'm like, oh, never mind. Cameron Boozer's actually just that guy.
Yeah. I think back 2 seasons ago, exhibition, Duke takes on Arizona State inside Cameron Indoor. Con Knipple goes baseline, Ben, and he catches a body. He dunks on a dude and kind of threw off my expectations for the full year. I was like, okay, maybe we'll see a bit more bouncy Con Knipple throughout the season. Man. And didn't quite live up to that poster dunk he gave us too early in the year. He threw off our expectations.
I keep seeing like every year with these exhibitions now, like they are overperforming my expectations for them dramatically. And I'm like, surely they're not this good. Like they beat Arizona State by like 57 or something ridiculous. I was like, that's got to be a fluke of some kind. I don't really think it was. Like, so hopefully they see something similar this year.
Oh, man. Awesome stuff from this Duke team, and we are excited to see the schedule continue to be put together and the expectations only continue to rise. We'll take one more timeout on the show today and start to wrap up our conversation after this here on Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Wayfair. Your home should feel like your home, and sometimes it doesn't take a complete renovation to make that happen. It just takes finding the right piece at the right price. Whether you're refreshing one room or updating your entire space, Wayfair helps make creating a home you love feel more attainable. Wayfair makes it easy to shop for furniture and home essentials across every style and budget, with everything from decor and lighting to storage, seating, rugs, and more. Plus, with Wayfair Verified, product specialists carefully evaluate products for quality, functionality, and ease of assembly, helping shoppers feel more confident before they buy. I've loved checking out all the various options for Wayfair. I recently was in the market for a new living room couch, and my, oh my, I was overwhelmed, by all of the options that they had. Are you ready to upgrade your home for way less? Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home and get your space ready for less. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home, a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Last segment of the podcast today, JJ Jackson hanging out with Ben McCormick of Duke Wisdom. And Ben, just counting down the days at this point until we see Duke basketball come back into our lives and until we see more footage be released by the team. They'll have plenty of more Brotherhood podcast episodes dropping for us to kind of get a peek behind the curtain. But I'm super thrilled to see this team really start to gel and get set for a big year where, dude, just looking on paper and this talent on the roster, I think this could be a team that ultimately gets it done and wins the school's first national championship since 2015.
Probably my favorite part about this team is that last year we saw it at the end of the year, right? We had some injuries. Duke had some injuries. Guys went down. It made life really difficult for like Cameron Boozer with Malik Brown out, or with Patrick Gongba out, rather. And this year it feels like somebody goes down. Okay, next man up. Like, there's no one in that starting lineup that could get injured, and I'd be like, okay, they can't win anymore. Somebody's going to step in off that bench. They'll be fine. They might miss a half step, but they'll be okay. They're so incredibly deep. I mean, there's guys in this third string that other teams in the ACC would love to have playing legitimate, real minutes. Like Sebastian Wilkins could be starting for a couple of teams in the ACC. I firmly believe that. Jacob Theodosio would play legitimate minutes at some teams in the ACC. These guys probably won't see much floor time.
Right.
And it's crazy how much talent this team has. It really, really is.
It's an embarrassment of riches all across the board. The positional size that everybody has. I think the shooting is going to be there for this team. I think they'll be able to rebound. They'll be able to defend. And it's just got the perfect blend of star power from freshmen that you've seen, returning Duke experience, and now this transfer piece that we haven't necessarily seen from Duke, where John Blackwell is going to be one of your absolute guys on the squad this year, whereas someone like Sion James or Mason Gillis, Ryan Young, Malik Brown, all these guys that have transferred into the program have been the more complementary pieces and specializing in one or two things. John Blackwell's a dude.
It's an interesting dynamic, man. We have, like you said, we haven't seen a transfer come in, and he's presumably going to be the leading scorer on this team, though more tape we see out of Boumtje Boumtje, the more I start.
It's going to be a fun competition.
I don't know, man. Like, that guy, I've never had more of a question mark on a player in my life at this point in an offseason, where I'm like, I don't know if this dude's going to average like 10 or if he's going to be the national player of the year. I don't know. And I kind of love that. But going back to Blackwell, like, we kind of know what he's going to bring to the table. He's a high-level scorer. He can get to the rim. He can shoot the ball. 19 points per game at Wisconsin. I don't know that I expect him to replicate that kind of scoring, especially given how deep Duke is, how deep that backcourt is. But if he can get anywhere near that as the leading scorer on the team, I think they're in a great position. He's in a great position personally as someone who's trying to be a draft pick in next year's NBA draft. I think he's got a really good shot at it if he's Duke's leading scorer.
Yeah, basketball season will be here before we know it, and we'll have plenty more takes and coverage coming about Duke basketball going into a new season. Ben, so good to have you back on the podcast, man. Tell us all about Duke Wisdom and ways that people can get involved and support you.
Yeah, man, you can find us at Duke_Wisdom wherever on social media. Go to DukeWisdom.org. We're going to have more articles coming out soon. We're going to have more podcast episodes coming out soon. Just look up Duke Wisdom Podcast wherever it is you're listening.
Good to see you, man. We'll talk soon, okay?
Yeah, man. Thanks, JJ.
All right, that's Ben McCormick hanging out with us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. That's going to do it for our show here today, guys. Thank you so much for your support. As always, really appreciate all the love that we get here on Locked On Blue Devils. Be sure to follow and subscribe to us for free wherever it is that you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Take a moment, if you will, like this video, share it with your friends, and let's keep running the numbers up. Hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.